Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here at Vetro today. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce our two speakers. So we have Andrew Eubank. He is Vetro's Senior Director of Technical Services. And while Andrew has deep experience designing and building fiber with Celex, he's also a relentlessly creative and passionate GIS data scientist who works closely with our customers to identify and implement the right solutions. So Andrew is going to work with us today on data and solution practices, and I'm really looking forward to sharing what he's bringing to the table today. Welcome, Andrew.
Thanks, VK.
And then, of course, we have our product manager, Will Jonas, who comes to Vetro from the world of GIS and software implementation. And he is leading the release of our innovative new field connector and change management solution, Vetro Mobile. So I know he's as excited as I am to introduce you to Vetro Mobile and connect the dots on how field tools influence network data for that long-term strategic approach. Thanks for joining us, Will.
Yeah, thanks to be here.
Awesome. Let's go ahead to the next slide. So before we get started, I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping. We're going to be monitoring the Q&A during the whole webinar. So go ahead and if a question pops into your head, drop it into the Q&A. We'll keep track of it and get to it at the end when we go to pick Andrew and Will's brains. And then after today's session, we're going to send you the recording of this webinar. So expect that link to arrive within 24 hours if there's anyone you want to share it with. Okay, so today we're going to start by giving you a little pop quiz right out of the gate. Can you answer these questions? How much is my network worth? How do I prove it? How do I prove that worth? Where can I leverage underutilized assets? Where can I operate more efficiently? So if the answers to these questions or how to get an answer that you trust didn't immediately pop into your head, then your fiber management system of record might need an upgrade. Beyond that, some of your processes and the way you think about your network data might stand some changes as well. So today we're here to talk about the opportunities and efficiencies the right system can open up to you and give you some food for thought to consider how your data works for you today and how even small shifts in how you approach it can fundamentally transform your business. But the hard truth is that whiteboards, spreadsheets, and written notes just aren't enough to handle the high volume of complex data that your network produces, right? Many of you have probably been in the telecom game for a really long time. And to your credit, you've persevered in an industry that has been underserved by the advancements in data management and visualization that are out there. So that's why we're here. We built Vetro for you to solve that problem and give you the software solutions that you really deserve. And what we can tell you, what we have seen and what we know because we've seen it through the eyes of more than 350 customer companies and 8,000 active users around the world, is that the potential financial benefits of knowing the answers to those questions far outweigh the time and cost of implementing a solution that gets you there. There's really no contest. Let's go ahead to the next slide, please. So the traditional approach to asset management is often that key decisions are made on the fly without being informed by data or without being part of a long-term plan, right? We're all familiar with that. We've all, in our careers have been in different positions, and it's very normal to be reactive. No business can survive without being reactive to some extent, right? So I've got the typical results to a long-term sort of reactive approach, or a traditional approach, as they might call it, on the left-hand side of the screen here. And on the right, strategic asset management asks you to use data and digital platforms to organize and analyze your operations, right? And then take coordinated actions that align with your goals and optimize for growth, longevity, and productivity. We all want to be on that right track to these positive results, right? But like, where do you start? So just making the choice to use your data at all to make decisions in asset management and operations is the most important transformative step. Any use of data in your asset management can rightly be called strategic. If you're using data to make decisions, you are taking a strategic approach to your work. I can't say it in enough ways. And then choose your weapons, right? So you need a fiber asset management system of record and a field connector. That's where Vetro comes in. And we're about to get to that, so hang tight. But the last thing is decide what's important to you. This is probably the biggest part. No platform exists or is successful without the people who are putting information in it and using it in specific ways. And every business is different, right? So as a leader, decide what's important to you. Be honest with yourself. What are your long-term goals for yourself, your career, and your business? What information helps you get there? What holds you back? Prioritize these things. What will have the biggest impact? What choices can you make today? So in the beginning, it will probably be a little bit of a balancing act. And as you transform from traditional to strategic data tactics, you're going to find gaps. You're going to find challenges. There will probably be faults in some of your practices, and that's actually a really good thing. Simply confronting these issues, even if you don't have a solution today, is the positive change. And with commitment over time, challenges are going to give way to clear benefits and an easier work life. Let's hit the next slide. All right, so let's do a little trend spotting while we're here, right? Let's take a look at what's going on in the fiber landscape and how the strategic use of data and digital tools are the keys to taking the wheel and steering your business towards your desired outcomes. So if these current trends, mergers and acquisitions, the need to monetize what you have, if you're not scaling or don't have growth plans at the moment, and then waiting for funding or applying for funding or sort of managing the funding process, right? So if these current trends haven't affected you yet, they probably will at some point. And it takes a minute to do the work of organizing your network documentation for migration from legacy systems to a modern digital system of record, a modern digital environment. So the time to act is now, before you find yourself scrambling to meet the right opportunity. And again, we've all been there. No, this is a no judgment zone. But we just want to get in there before, well, the getting is good, so to speak. So now that we've kind of set the scene, let's get Andrew in on this conversation. Andrew, come back to me. You still here?
I'm here. Thanks,
All right,
VK.
great. So Andrew, like in developing content for this webinar, like I learned from you basically that every network data problem has a solution. It's always out there. So before we get into those solutions, can you share with our colleagues on this call today how you view these market influences as opportunities to leverage your data? I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. The marketplace or the broadband environment as it exists today is unique in the sense that it's not just allowing for innovation, but it's forcing innovation, right? So the amount of dollars that are coming in from multiple fronts, whether that's equity backing, whether that's grants, whatever that source of money is leading innovators to a realization that the work doesn't have to be done like it always has been. In fact, it can't be done like it always has been. And while that's painful in a lot of ways, it's making people rethink and innovate. You think about the crush of dollars paired against kind of the lack of talent, if you will, and talent maybe being a replacement word for like, hey, we don't have enough people who really understand what's going on. But that's driving a push for companies to digitally transform and to make decisions that will transform their business quicker than they ever have before. Legacy systems are doing at least some of the work, and a lot of them treat their own specific world as its very own specific problem, right? There's work that needs to be done to compare apples to apples, but a lot of the business leaders in today's climate are more and more looking at the whole stack problem, not just their piece of the pie. It's not enough to just be hired on as an executive and say, all right, I oversee this portion of the business. You have to know your impact across the totality, right? So we're not accepting methodologies or stacks that are not built to address the challenges properly anymore. Let's move on to the next slide. So how do you address the stack properly? With a focus on best of breed as opposed to monolithic, right? Emphasizing things like accessibility, accuracy, and speed. The right people have to access the right data with the right protections and workflows in place, right? Rather than each member of the team hyper-focused on one small piece of your puzzle, being unaware of the implications and impacts to the greater whole, you have to know what your work does and how it touches others. We see so many of our customers finding deep success by empowering that work right where the team is and allowing visibility in the right places to expedite that work. And when I talk about accessibility, that heavily relates to everyone knowing what the data means. And when I say data, that can be things like serviceable locations or your network or more. And you have to know how to access it and where to go to access it, but how do you use it? It's a dialect issue, right? Is everyone speaking the same language, or are we all talking in different languages or different dialects? From team to team, do we all have the same in-depth understanding of what this data is? And this is important, not just person to person, but within your systems and your processes also. Making sure that everyone in the company and all the partners have the right seat around the metaphorical table ensures that that information flows properly. And accuracy is a super fun buzzword, but it's not just having good data. It's also eliminating unnecessary or distracting data and utilizing the right data for the job. Are people operating from those same truths? The information that makes sense to us as people does not always end up deposited in the right place, and without guidelines can be translated based on somebody's preference or style. It's like in music, it's the classic question of, are we all on the same sheet of music and in the same key, or are we even interpreting this the same way? We're all after analytics and reports in our jobs, anything that can reduce kind of the qualitative nature of making a decision. Our goal is to enable great decisions by giving access to the quantitative. We're not going to make the decisions for you. Vetro helps make clear and empower that by putting usable data into the hands of the right people and making it easier to do it. Truth be told, both of these things contribute to speed. One of the favorite analogies I've heard during my time in telecommunications is that building fiber is a team sport. Everyone is involved. Everyone has a role. Like a football team, you're blocking, or you're tackling, or you're pulling, or you're running, or you're moving specifically. And those movements have to be made with precision and speed. Everyone doing something slightly different at the same time. The best teams are made up of the best people for that position, and not dissimilarly. The best organizations are made up of the right systems, people, and processes built to achieve the result that they're after. And all of these concepts are really core to answering the questions that we showed in the beginning as well, and reviewing them as applied to areas of your business like monetization. So let's move on to the next slide and talk about that. Monetization is a pretty broad term, right? And again, depending on your train of thought or your level of thought within the business, it encompasses a lot. At the core of it, it's fairly simple, however, right? How do you use your asset, both existing and planned, to recognize more revenue? And I say more revenue, right? Because at some point, somebody in your organization likely put together a business plan that said, here's what we're going to capture with this initial build. And now there needs to be more. In the fiber world, this can be your existing network, or planned strategic expansions, or grant applications that tie in various territories, or put your business into a competitive place. And as it relates to usability, some simple questions to answer might be this. In a competitive marketplace where new players spring up, seems like monthly, and they all have some variation of like a light related turn of phrase in the business, right? Grant deadlines are incredibly tight, money is expensive, and pressure to execute is higher than ever. Can my team go fast? And can my team go together? Everyone makes a joke about communication companies and how they communicate, or if they can communicate. Well, it's real. And the tools used impact monetization at every level. Let's talk a little bit about growth opportunities and asset capacity. It's not always enough to just know where your network is. Like from a top-down view, that's important. Although some of us here may be in various stages of even knowing that with certainty compared to others. We also have to know how much network is available and what state it's in to capture it accurately. So strand level of detail. We have to know what's in use. What paths do we have available? What's spliced? What's not spliced? How do I bring a new customer online without causing interruption to other customers? We live in a world where every cent counts. I'm sure plenty of us on the call either relate to or personally or know someone in a situation of where you built fiber to serve a specific area or a specific customer, and now you're going back and you're revisiting that build 1 or 2 or 3 times over just to see, are there additional customers nearby that can make use of this asset, or are there cell towers to build to, or can I lease some of these strands to another company, right? Or how can I make use of spare ducts, lease ducts, microducts? All these things are important. Accurate information can save hours or even days of frustration during a turn-up or a new build that requires the use of an existing asset, let alone the soft costs of having to send someone out just to walk it, to get eyes on what's actually going on, which can seem almost like an inevitability for many of us. And while we're in a world where greenfield builds are fun and they're all the rage, they rarely account well for brownfield networks like what you have in place today. It's fun for an engineer to imagine a utopian network, and it's another to take the engineering time that's required to say, hey, I've got something that I have to build off of. I've got to maximize what I have to create a spur or to branch off into a new development. Having that information readily accessible and available to our business development teams can empower them to make intelligent decisions and pass that information to fiber engineers in a clear, concise package. Let's move on to the next slide. A lot of us are asked to de-risk an investment. Let's face it, building fiber is not cheap today, and it's not going to be cheaper tomorrow either. The whole market is being forced upwards by all those things we've talked about, a variety of different colliding pressures, right? Things like grants, investment, labor costs. And I'm sure so many of us have looked at a business plan for fiber and fiddled with the numbers on the spreadsheet and arrived at a similar conclusion. The faster I can sell this, the more sense it makes as a project, to the extent that even a larger CapEx number seems a little less scary if you get your revenue in X less months. The right tooling empowers that process to move insanely fast, from empowering ad campaigns by having clean address data associated to existing or new networks, to demand generation driven by enabling the evaluation of sign-up areas, to a completed sale transitioning quickly into the provisioning process. It shaves days to weeks off of a cumbersome process that was already paramount to just making that business case work, or translating that fiddling of the numbers into actionable things that get revenue. Let's move on to the next slide. And it's all well and good just to enable a sale, but we know the fiber world is fraught with potential hangups, things like permitting entities, locates, red lines, you name it. Every time someone has to manually touch or approve something, the world seems to move a lot slower for a little bit. And there's so many stories that I've personally heard from people like construction managers or general managers of an area, or even just the field team, of how did you solve for this? And it seems to more often than not involve somebody going to a local place of business and sitting down and unfurling a map and saying, here's what's going on, to explain the process and bring about that aha moment that person needed. We're talking a little bit about communication again, aren't we? Like, having the proper tools enables people to bridge that gap in dialect and create easy to understand, easy to communicate documentation, getting it out quicker, more accurately. By having cleaner data and better discussions up front, the provisioning teams utilizing the system on the back end can trust when a technician is dispatched, they will arrive at the right location, hook up to the right port, and the light will be there for them because the data has been shepherded correctly and intelligently the whole way through. It's no longer enough to just sift through spreadsheets, splicing documents and old maps over the course of a few days and several hundred person-hour dollars just to provide the right info to someone to turn up a single customer, and then hope that they mark it up with the changes to get back to you later, which you then file, and you hope you pull things in the right order next time too. With the right information and the data in place and mature provisioning workflows driven by powerful tooling, an order can be taken and resources assigned in a matter of minutes in the provisioning process, knowing the fiber and the strand and the splices required so that a technician can be dispatched and that revenue is recognized swiftly. When people can fundamentally work with the same tools and speak the same dialect and share that with those who need it, it changes the speed of business entirely. And honestly, that's one of my favorite pieces. We're going to touch a bit more on the practical nature and how we're solving for fieldwork later during our mobile portion. So tuck that in the back of your heads. For now, though, let's ask, how does this relate to kind of the broader overall life stage of a broadband business? It's really not hard to draw those conclusions, I think, when it comes to consolidation. So let's move on to the next slide. A lot of the things that we have talked about. Let's go back one slide. Sorry there, Will. There we go. Yeah, a lot of what we've talked about can be hard to show meaningfully in an Excel style spreadsheet, right? We know pictures, visuals, and hard evidence is worth 1,000 or more words. And if you're a CFO, plug your ears, right? But it's also worth a lot combined with accounting formatted cells. So every great business plan has to come with evidence. And we know the market is already in the early throes of consolidation. And while that may not be directly applicable to everyone, it's a truth that we'll all face due to the competitive nature of overbuilders in your area or the consolidation of smaller hyperscalers as things go along. So for those of us who will become sellers or buyers, those things that have traditionally been seen as softer data points become a lot more relevant towards getting a higher valuation. And by softer, I mean, like, how do you really show these things? It's like a house, though. Knowing the square footage is one thing, and sure, very likely if you're in the right area, it's going to guarantee you a price. But knowing the finish work that was done, or how the electrical and the plumbing and the AC are all kitted out, and can that be expanded on or improved upon? That has the potential to add serious and significant value to what in the past was likely just a building. Any good real estate agent knows that you can make an upsell on potential. And if you're in the broadband business, you make the upsell on potential for your network. It's a close cousin to monetization. How can you cleanly show to either a funding partner or a firm or an acquirer the worth and potential of your network? Or how are you going to find out that information from the company you're buying? These questions have to be answered. Can you show where your asset is? How much growth can happen in your existing and adjacent markets? Can you show the statuses of your ongoing projects? Can you obtain information to help model how that will impact your revenue later? For example, what service locations are available now versus what's going to be available later, or what strands are in use now and what can be leased or lit quickly? And can you quickly, because it's always quickly, right? Can you give a sense of how you will move into adjacent areas or get more revenue from what you have today? And no one likes to operate off of theoreticals, especially not with the cost of money going up and things tightening. A healthy business can use their balance sheets to show sustained growth, but a healthy business can also explain growth potential in a compelling way, utilizing sophisticated and mature data and imagery. The right system of record enables communicating those things by bringing them to a focused, specific light and allowing for controlled transparency into the key data points and the metrics that matter. So how do you de-risk your investment or show the lack of risk you have as a company? One of the most important ways is sustainable and shareable data, showing that you can spin up, spin down, and move swiftly in today's economy. Leadership teams across the board speak to the importance of trust, and trust is fundamentally born through execution. Doing what you say you'll do and showing that there is a path to keep doing it. Sharing information openly, sharing process, statistics, measurements, and having the ability to convey trust that your company is working with the right tools, doing the right things, and is on the right path. That's a key to certain success. Let's move into funding. Next slide, please, Will. A strategy to grow your asset is to get other people to pay for it, right? In fact, a lot of WISPs in the business today, that's very likely how you got your start. Is somebody needed internet. You said, hey, I'm going to raise my hand and fulfill this need. Whether they're paying for the extension or the enhancement, it could be through public or private money. The truth of the matter is today, though, this is a highly competitive process. And I know I'm preaching to the choir when I say that, but it's not just you and your teams working against a clock. It's you and your teams working against a clock and other teams and various political pressures and requirements. So how can you differentiate from others when you're competing for the funds? You run the risk of rejection for grants or other forms of funding due to a lack of preparedness, or things like project delays due to inaccurate data, or inefficiencies due to resource allocation, and even later on compliance issues due to poor data. Many of the obvious answers we've already discussed. Things like knowing where your assets are and are not, designing quickly, getting accurate data into the pipeline. But one thing that is incredibly important and valid is protecting your core data through the process. And what do I mean by that? The integrity of your systems is highly important, especially gold standard data like addresses in your fiber network. Pieces of the protection puzzle include things like standardizing your data collection and documentation, where you put it, how you gather it, how you mark it up, how you redline it, with your hands-on field crew, and evaluating, looking at your whole tech stack that touches your key data points, making sure you have a rigorous change management process that can maintain that system of records integrity. With a mature enterprise view that the source of truth data within a protected system of record provides, you end up with a stronger ability to quickly work through things like feasibility, network optimization, and allocating those existing fiber resources, and risk mitigation. And this leads to credibility. Your grantors or funders can trust you more when you can show how you'll do it, then execute on it, and how you'll comply with the requirements moving forward. Going fast requires innovative solutions that help multiple levels of the business touch the right data with the right protections. We're in your corner when it comes to empowering these exercises and maintaining this critical information. New innovations like our mobile platform empower our customers even further to maintain a crisp and accurate system of record. With that, I'm going to pass back over to our team to discuss how we're innovating in this space. Over to you, Will.
Thanks, Andrew. Let me get to the next slide here. So yeah, really excited to join this today to introduce Vetro Mobile to everyone. Really proud of this product and the team that's been behind this, and yeah, just can't say enough good things about what we're going to show today, and talk about kind of really how this can improve and empower your operations and your field teams. So Vetro Mobile is a radically simple purpose-built application for mobile devices. So in addition to providing your field teams with your network data access that looks, feels, performs like Vetro, we've also built this really robust change management interface that sits in between FiberMap and Vetro Mobile. So this isn't just about putting Vetro in your pocket. That's a really great part of this. But really, this is about empowering your field users and your operations teams with this powerful change management tool. So I've got a little clip here that I'll show, but wanted to kind of touch on some of the high level functionality. So you are able to manage and visualize all your equipment, update splicing directly from your device. We have a series of field collection tools. So making things like markups, photos, notes, we can timestamp and put watermarks with coordinates on information coming from your field teams. There is full offline capability. And again, that change management piece that I think is so valuable. You know, as we've been ramping up for product launch over the last couple months, I've been talking to lots of customers, and the common thing I hear is we just have this super clunky and fail-proof or process with getting information back from the field teams where there's just multiple points of failure, right? There's emails, there's paper markups. No one knows where these paper markups are coming from, and no one knows when they're getting introduced back into your system of record. So really with this product, we're trying to empower that workflow and empower your users to get on the same page. And this is so critical to maintaining your strategic asset and to really being able to validate and know what's in the field and know how that relates and correlates back to your system of record to ensure that data integrity, ensure that data accuracy. So I'm gonna play this clip and I'll kind of talk through what you're seeing here. So again, this is on my tablet, on my iPad. Here I'm going to a fiber access terminal. I'm then opening up the splicing modal that looks a lot like what you see in Vetro. I'm toggling down to the splitter that's connected to the drop. Here I can actually disconnect that drop, or I can even reconnect the drop to a different port. So in this scenario, say someone gets on site and realizes, hey, this drop is at the wrong port, or someone's already taken this port, I need to switch that information. And then once that change has been created, I can actually submit that back to the office team for their review. And I'll show you a little picture of what that looks like. But that kind of just highlights the general workflow, right? We're really about creating a nice, easy, clean way to understand and capture information from your field, see the information that you need to see. You know, you're always looking at the most up-to-date information with your system of record, and then quickly gather those details, not having to worry about, you know, messing anything up or sending back the wrong information that's going to, you know, mess up the system of record or jack up your records. This gives a really nice controlled method to push that information back. And then in Vetro FiberMap, you start to work with a really robust, and I'm going to switch to the next slide here. Pause this, sorry. So this is the change management piece now that you're looking at. And again, this is about providing you that robust change backlog where things can be tracked. You can then see a history and an audit log of what's coming in, who's submitting it, who's approving it. So you can start to envision how this really plays into a critical part of your process for maintaining your strategic assets and really understanding what you have. And so, you know, where this just becomes super valuable is for your QA process. So whether that's field inspections, design walkouts, as-built walkouts after things are constructed, were they built the right way? You know, do we have at this site the proper equipment? Do we have the proper splicing? Is it in the right location? And if it's not, you know, that's okay. I can quickly gather that information and make my in-office engineering team aware, and they can quickly make these updates, and everything is documented and tracked, and you can start to see the history of what changed and why. And as you can imagine, that starts to play even a bigger role in understanding, well, we had all these changes, you know, this wasn't built the right way. Why is that? Starts to really help inform you of maybe other parts of your processes that are failing. You know, why do we have so many different changes from how it was built for how it was designed, and what do we need to do to fix that when we build out a new area or a new project? So on the left here, you can see the change cards. This is a real life screenshot from my phone device. So I've got a series of different changes, whether that's just a general instruction or it's updating the connection details or the attribution. And then on the right is how that interface looks in FiberMap. So again, on the left, you have your change interface where you can filter, sort. You can see the open changes versus the closed changes that have been taken into effect. And then on the right, you can really drill into the details of those changes. What's on this particular card? What images have been shared with me? What change at this connection detail? You know, we broke the connection between port 27 or fiber 27 and fiber 2, and then we added a connection with fiber 27 and fiber 1. So really just trying to kind of highlight how this tool can be leveraged to improve your operations with your field teams. And that really is across the board, from communication to workflow management, in terms of getting data back into your system of record accurately. Maintaining that data integrity is really what we're after with this product, and why I'm so excited about how it really can improve and empower these field users to reduce the clutter of all the paper back and forth, reduce the emails, and improve the efficiency of your teams as they work together to really capture and document your system of record and your strategic asset. BK, Andrew, that's it for me.
That's great. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate your taking the time to walk through this content with us today. We're really excited about this product, especially the mobile app is more than I think we all expected, and we're really proud of our development team. And I also have to say that you forgot the most important thing, which is that it's really cool, Will. So, there's that as well. But we're going to get to some Q&A in just a second. A couple questions came in, but if you could just flip to the next, not the next slide, but 2 slides. We're going to skip the catch us live stuff. Or no, yeah. Okay, whatever. So when you go back to your desk today, talk to your team. If you're wondering at all, after you saw that first slide that we went through today, hey, how much is my network worth? How can I prove it? If you ask those questions of your team and there's anything you don't like about the answers that you get back, give us a call. We're available for that. That's what we do. We're laser focused on fiber every single day. And we work really hand in hand with our customers to work out stuff like this. So we would love to talk to you. You can email us to get a demo. You can give us a call to get a demo, or just talk. You can go to our website to do the same thing. And if you just want to follow us on your favorite social media, we're at VetroFiberMap. So now let's pop back to the Q&A. I've got a couple of questions popping up here and we'll get started. So if you want to go back 2 screens, Will, thanks. I was supposed to be the driver today, guys, but my car broke down. All right. So the first one is mobile design mainly for checks and changes, or can it be used for design and staking in the field? It's a great question.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's mainly for change capture. I mean, we do have some markup tools, and it can be used to leverage, small changes to your design. I wouldn't classify it as like a full-blown design field tool. Sure, you could do some of that, but I would argue that some of those operations, or designing a big, large, entire cabinet or PON zone, will be much faster than FiberMap. But certainly for designing or pulling in markups for like a specific run of fiber, or a small section of network add-on, it could certainly be leveraged for that.
Great, thanks, Will. Another question, follow-up question actually first is, can features be captured using GPS units?
We can tag features with GPS units. So you saw with the well, I guess I didn't show that, but yeah, we do have the ability to tag like photos with a geotag, and yet all the changes get tagged with a location. So as you're changing, you are capturing the location of that change. I'm not sure if that quite answers. If you're talking about like trying to link existing GPS, no, we don't have that capability today, but that is certainly something I'm interested in learning more about, what you're looking for. So maybe that's more of a follow-up there, VK, that we could reach out.
That's great. Yeah, we'll keep track of that question and follow up. So another question that came in is, does the mobile app have offline support? We don't have good service here, and it would be a deal breaker to need connectivity on it.
Yes, it has full offline capabilities, which is really great. So the way that works is you're allowed to download your plan. So your area of network that you're working on. You can download that to your local device when you have internet. And then you can take that in the field and in the changes I showed in the clip, and we could certainly talk about this more with a official demo or something like that. But the gist of it is, yeah, everything that I was showing, all the changes can be done offline, completely offline with no internet service on a local stored plan. And then once you get back to internet service, those changes can be pushed back to the system of record. So yes.
Great, thank you. Another one that came in, this is actually an interesting question. So it says, we're getting a lot of mistakes with our younger team members. You mentioned protecting data earlier. So how does this app actually protect us from things like mistakes?
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
take that as well. So a couple different ways, really. So we have different levels of user permissions. So we do have more advanced field user roles, and then we have a field basic role that really only allows for general markups, red lines, things of that nature, but they cannot change any of the existing data. In addition to that, for those users that where you do want to allow them to change the attribution or the connectivity details, you can also use the same permissions that FiberMap has for plans and layers. So our mobile app recognizes those permissions as well. So if there are certain areas that you're trying to eliminate people going into, we can do that. But really the change management is the protective piece of all of this, right? Nothing they're doing in mobile is updating their system of record in real time. It's all just gathering those changes and submitting them back to the Office users to really go through that approval process. So there's multiple layers of protections that we've built in place. Just really depends on your use case. VK, I'm not hearing you if you're talking the next one.
My webinar hosting muscles are a little rusty, guys. One of them is, I think I saw straight line diagrams on an earlier screen. Is that a PDF? Or does Vetro, I'm kind of like not understanding the question, but were we looking at like a static diagram, I guess is what they're asking?
Yeah, I'd love to answer that question, right? So straight line diagrams is built off of your database. So as you make changes in your Vetro database, that's going to reflect in your straight line diagram. And that's really the power of it compared to just kind of like a static Visio document or something like that, where as soon as you update it or as soon as you send it out and somebody changes something, it's out of date, right? So not only that, but those can be exported as a vector type file format. And more importantly, for those with the right permissions in your Vetro instance, that can be shared as a URL so that your users can access that straight line diagram as well. And it can be built to reflect your theme and your templates.
Killer. Thank you, Andrew. And one more in the queue. So is this an add-on to Vetro or is it packaged with it? If it is an add-on, how much does it cost? We knew the question was coming, so thank you for that.
Yeah, I'll take that one. It is an add-on. The cost obviously depends on a lot of factors, the package, the number of users, things like that. So, please reach out. We'll post some information if you're interested in that, and we can, schedule a demo and talk about those details more.
Awesome. Thank you. And so I think that is it for questions, unless anybody wants to get one or two more in while I'm wrapping up here. Oh, somebody does want to get one in while I'm wrapping up. Okay. Can photo attachments be downloaded to send off for grant reporting? If so, will the coordinates remain in place with the file metadata? Ooh, I love this question. This is a mobile question.
They can be downloaded. I'd have to check on the metadata part, but you do have the ability to geotag and put the coordinates right there, like in the watermark. So you would certainly have the reference in that. I'll follow up on the metadata piece. We can follow up on that one as well.
I do think, Will, like specifically speaking, your answer is that coordinate and that metadata is exposed visually. Yes. On that photo as well. So that's important to keep in mind. Like very similar to like a geotag. It's like, hey, here are the coordinates, here's the time it was took,
Yeah,
etc.
exactly. Yeah, it is exposed visually. I need to check on, if you download it on the back end. Good
Yeah,
question.
so the follow-up is like for the reports, the coordinates must remain intact. So, and like visual coordinates aren't accepted. So that's a really interesting question, and we're gonna have to follow up with you, but thank you for asking that. Okay, great. Another question. Do you have anyone in the UK utilizing Vetro FibreMath that we could talk with? We do actually have a number of questions, customers in the UK that you could talk with. So we will reach out to you after this and kind of do that on a one-on-one basis, and connect through your account manager or whoever's been working with you. Sure. All right. So those are all really good questions. Thanks so much. Let's go to one slide forward, since there are a couple of minutes, and just talk about seeing you guys out in the world. If you're going to Fiber Connect, if you're going to Mountain Connect, these are all, the first three are here in the States. Then there's Connected Britain in September. We're going to AfricaCom in November in Cape Town. So, if you're out and about, look for us. And we would love to shake your hand, show you a demo of the Vetro platform, show you a demo of Vetro Mobile, and find out more about what you're doing and how we can help you. And then just go to the next slide real quick. And we'll wrap up once again. So we'd love to show you more about Vetro. We'd love to talk to you about what kind of data problems you're trying to solve. And we're here for you. So give us a call, reach out, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again, everybody, for attending today.